Well, we just loaded the boat, or I should say put the boat in the water. We got the little tin boat. We're going to be fishing a stretch of river that I put the big boat in, one of my old skeeters, probably 10 years ago. And within about 15 minutes, I screwed up the lower unit, and that was my experience on it. So I know that this stretch of river, very shallow, supposed to be good. It's supposed to have some good smallmouth in it. So we're down here right now. You can see we've got the little tin boat. There's the main river. This is a little side channel. It looks very, very slow. We've got very little current. I don't know if you guys can see just a little bit of flow, like very little bit. And there's a LJ bloom going on. There's a crankbait in the tree right there. Might have to figure out how to get that. So we're gonna just see. We're gonna explore around a little bit. This is why I got the tin can, is to bounce around on a bunch of the local rivers, do a little exploring. So let's see if we can catch a few. So you guys know how much I like to fish the hula grub, your spider grubs. I've talked about it on the channel before. Used them a ton of times, catch a ton of fish. Really one of the baits that I attribute to getting me into tournament fishing. Well, I gotta say, I'm pretty excited to try these guys out. These are the new 2.5-inch Yamamoto hula grubs. You know, I was kind of made aware of these by one of my roommates, Matt Becker, who is with the Yamamoto staff, and I couldn't wait to get my hands on some. So I finally got some in my actual hands, and I'm really excited to use them. Just for comparison, you can see how much smaller they are. This is a standard 5-inch size. This is the 2.5-inch size. It's one of those baits. The 4 and 5 and 6-inch sizes are those baits that just generate tons and tons of action. And I've always really liked the little Kitech spiders, which are like, you can get them 2-inch. I think there's a 1.5-inch. They're really good as well. They can be tough to get. They're pretty pricey, and I just really like the Yamamoto one. So I'm really excited to try these. So we're gonna try that out. Because it is such a small bait, some of your different heads can be a little bit difficult, or different jig heads to find that will fit it. But this is a perfect scenario for the Berkeley half head. This is the 1/8 ounce size, just an all-around great bait. 1/0 hook in it. So I'm just gonna rig it up, and we're gonna toss it around. I'm really expecting to catch quite a few fish, and being that we're on a stretch of the river that I'm not familiar with, why not throw a little spider jig around? I just think we're gonna catch a pile of fish. We might catch a lot of 8-inch smallmouth mixed in, but should be good. Now we just got to find some current. It is so slow out here. So we'll start bopping around trying to key in on some key pieces of cover. I'm gonna just tie this onto one of my spinning rods and flip it around. So let's see if the new 2.5-inch hula grub is as good as some of the bigger ones. So just for comparison's sake right here, this is the 6-inch, this is a 5-inch, 4-inch, and now the little 2.5-incher. You can see pretty big size difference. You know, the 4 and the 5-inch really are about the same size. The difference is the width of the legs and the body is a little bit thinner than the 5-inch, and then the 6-inch you can see is actually bigger. But definitely a small profile when compared to the other hula grub sizes. First cast. Not a big one. Not a bad one. Ooh. Why are you peeing, buddy? Not a giant, but a healthy fatty. Hold on, buddy. Well, I definitely know why I banged up my motor the last time. So, like, I'm out here, it's flat calm. There are rock seams, there's a rock sticking out of the water. There are definitely a lot of little rocks popping up all over and little shallow rock bars. A little better. Yozers. So this is of the 3 fish we've caught now, this is something that I think is going on more than people think. So this is the second fish that has been peeing, and I feel pretty strongly that the smallmouth in the fall, like when that water temp gets back into the 60s, they go through like a second spawn. And I'm not saying they actually spawn, but I think a lot of them move back into the spawning locations. I think some of them make beds. I've seen way too many weird things, and I haven't had a peeing smallmouth in a long time. Now, I'm not saying peeing just means they're spawning, but I just think it's funny that I've caught 2 out of 3 and they've been peeing today. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section. Do you think that there is a false spawn, is what I would call it, a false spawn in the fall? Because I do. I think some fish very much that the water temp triggers them to start thinking about spawning. Hey, where's Mama? Right where you should be. You're just not big enough. You're 12 inches. Hard to deny a little crayfish though, huh? I hear you. I like M&Ms too. Just a perfect spot, you know, this little rock island. There's a little bit of current going through on the backside, and he was just sitting on the top side of it. The other thing too to point out, like this pairing right now, this little 1/8 ounce half head is working so well, because it's, you know, in this current, it's letting the bait just flutter down the rocks, and it's not heavy enough to really get stuck down in the rocks. If it does get snagged, I can pop my line and the bait comes off and keeps fluttering. I mean, this is fun, but these are not the size we're after. If I hold him close enough, maybe you'll think he's bigger. Come on. 12 and 13 inchers. We'll say the bait's holding up really well. I've only gone through 1 bait. I don't know how many I've caught at this point, but it's been a lot, and I've had a bunch that have grabbed a tail and pulled on it. Oh. That's a good one. Better. You got one of my legs buddy. You might be too big for that. He likes it. He likes it a lot. There's one. That one feels good. Not giant, but another terrible one. Just a bite getter. Just a bite getter, guys. I mean, the regular hula grub has always been a bite getter, but this thing, I mean, there's no reason you shouldn't get the same bites plus more from really finicky fish. Another little better one. Getting bigger. Yo, that was probably a tad bit too big for that. Probably a, I don't know, 15-incher, skinnier. One thing I'll tell you guys, like, so the hula grub is a really versatile bait. A lot of people view it as, you know, like throw a football head jig and just drag it. But for me, like, I actually learned fishing grass lines with it. But I mean, you absolutely could drag it with a football jig, gravel points, rock, you know, that's perfect on that stuff. Same places you might throw a football jig, but it's also really good Texas rigged. It's really good on a like ball head type jig. You know, you can fish it in grass and rock everywhere. You can fish it in wood. It's just it's a bite getter. Now, this little 2.5-incher, I don't know that you necessarily want to be Texas rigging it. I'm sure you could. But for me, like, I view this as being something where I can flip it around on some little gravel points. You know, if I've got an exposed hook, I definitely want a little bit cleaner bottom, but I think it could really excel at fishing for finicky fish if you happen to be on a really pressured body of water, if you happen to be, you know, in the spring sight fishing them, whether that's actually spawning or whether they're cruising the bank. Like, I just think it's one of those baits that'll generate a lot of strikes for you. As you've seen, I mean, I'm getting bit consistently. I'm getting a lot of fish that are coming up and grabbing a tail and just pulling on it. A lot of, you know, like 6-inch smallmouth sized bass, but it seems like everything just wants to bite it. And for me, like, just looking to have some fun or get Hank and Duke out to catch some fish, like, this is going to be one of those baits I definitely could see them catching a bunch of fish on. And I found a log. Not a giant, but they really are enjoying this. You know, I brought bigger size hula grubs, which would be something I would think about using in this instance, just because, you know, I'm catching a lot of little fish and just want to see what's a good way to generate a better quality fish. And I forgot bigger hooks. You know, I've got most of my stuff in my other boat, and I grabbed some stuff that I wanted to try today, like these 2.5-inch hula grubs, and I grabbed a pack of 1/8-ounce half heads, Berkeley half heads to rig them with, and I forgot to grab any other jig heads for the bigger sizes. So that wasn't real smart, so I'm kind of stuck using what I'm using. But I don't know, guys. I mean, you know, this is exactly what I kind of expected to happen. I expected to get a ton of bites. I was hoping for a few better quality fish. We've had a few small keepers. Again, we've only been fishing probably for an hour and 20 minutes, and I've also have no knowledge of this stretch of the river. We're just fishing whatever looks good. So, you know, to be catching a pile of fish right off the bat is probably more attributed to the bait than anything. And we're catching exactly what I expected to catch, which was a pile of fish, because the 4-inch hula grubs, the other hula grubs are absolute fish catchers. They're baits that, you know, I continue to vow to work more into my tournament arsenal. You know, it was really a primary bait for me for years, and then I kind of got away from it, and then the last couple of years I've been working them back in, and definitely caught some key fish on them the last several years in tournaments. And you know, I've been catching a lot of fish on the little Kitech spiders, so you know, we'll definitely be working this one in, probably to almost replace those Kitechs. I don't know, we'll see. I mean, I really like the Kitechs. I mean, they get even smaller, so you know, it just gives you more options to throw. But hopefully I just showed you the fish catching ability of these. If you have not thrown a spider grub, and the ones I really like are these hula grubs, I really recommend you getting out and trying them, because they are fish catchers. You know, they're really good baits for anglers with a lot less skill level, you know, newer anglers or younger anglers, to get out and catch some fish. And they're also a tournament grade bait. They are phenomenal. But anyways, I'm gonna leave it at that. I'll get my bait free. Oh, we got it. And probably, I don't know, we'll mess around a little bit more. I'm probably just gonna drive around, check the river out, because I'd like to see what it has to offer. We've only seen probably a couple of miles, and I'm sure there's some other juicy areas. And before I leave, I'd like to see what the river has to offer. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed today's video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and stay tuned. We'll have a new video coming out tomorrow.